The gate agent grabbed my worn backpack and threw it on the floor. "People like you make our airline look cheap," she screamed. Passengers circled around, phones recording my humiliation. I stood there, tears streaming down my face as she mocked my clothes and called security. Then my husband walked through those doors. What you're about to hear is a story about cruelty, public humiliation, and the sweetest justice you've ever witnessed. If you've ever been bullied or humiliated in public, this will hit deep. Stay till the very end because the moment her husband arrives will give you chills. Smash that like button, subscribe, and let's get into this story that everyone needs to hear. My name is Kendall, and I need to tell you about the worst day of my life that somehow turned into the most powerful moment I've ever experienced. I grew up poor, like really poor. My mom raised me alone in a tiny apartment where we sometimes had to choose between heating and eating. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through community college. One of those jobs was at a coffee shop near the airport, and that's where I met Daniel. He was this kind, ambitious man in aviation management who somehow saw past my stained apron and tired eyes. He saw me, the real me. We fell in love over shared dreams and late-night conversations, and 5 years ago, he asked me to marry him. Life changed after that. Daniel's career took off, and 6 months ago, he became the chief administrator of the FAA. Suddenly, we had money. Real money. But here's the thing about growing up poor. It stays with you. I still clip coupons. I still shop at thrift stores. I still drive my old Honda with the dent in the passenger door. Daniel never minded. He loved that I stayed grounded, that success didn't change who I was at my core. That Tuesday morning in October, I was at Chicago O'Hare Airport, and I was a mess. My best friend Amy had called me the night before, hysterical. Her 8-year-old son had been rushed to the hospital back in my hometown. She needed me. Daniel had flown to D.C. 2 days earlier for urgent FAA business, so I booked the first flight out. What I didn't know was that he'd secretly upgraded my ticket to first class. He knew I'd be stressed and wanted me to be comfortable. I showed up at that airport wearing faded jeans with a small tear in the knee, an oversized sweater I'd bought at Goodwill for $5, and my old white sneakers that had seen better days. My hair was in a simple braid. I wasn't wearing any makeup, and I carried my trusty backpack, the one with the broken zipper that I kept meaning to replace. Inside that backpack was a stuffed elephant for Amy's son. It was all I could think to bring. When I got to the gate, I glanced at my boarding pass and realized I was in first class, seat 2A. I felt uncomfortable immediately. I looked around at the other first-class passengers, men in expensive suits, women in designer dresses with Louis Vuitton luggage. Then there was me, looking like I'd just rolled out of bed after a rough night. I thought about asking to switch to economy, but the line was moving, and I didn't want to cause trouble. That's when I met Monica. She was the gate agent, probably late 20s, with perfectly styled hair and designer accessories clipped to her uniform. The moment I stepped into the first-class boarding lane, her eyes locked onto me. And I saw it. That look. That judgmental, disgusted look I'd seen so many times growing up. The look that says, "You don't belong here." "Excuse me, miss?" "Miss!" Her voice was sharp, cutting through the quiet murmur of the gate area. "This is the first-class lane." I smiled nervously. "Oh yes, I know. My ticket is—" She snatched the boarding pass from my hand before I could finish. Her eyes scanned it, then scanned me, then back to the pass. "How did you get a first-class ticket?" The way she said "you" made my stomach drop. There was so much contempt packed into that one word. "My husband bought it for me," I explained softly, trying to keep my voice steady. Another gate agent at the counter next to Monica, her name tag said Christina, looked over and laughed. Actually laughed, out loud. Monica held up my boarding pass like it was evidence in a crime. "Christina, look at this. Someone's pretending to be fancy today." My face burned. Passengers around us turned to stare. I heard whispers, saw people pulling out their phones. Monica wasn't done. She looked me up and down, slowly, deliberately, making sure everyone could see what she was doing. "Let me guess," she said loudly. "You maxed out all your credit cards for this? Trying to impress someone?" Because, honey, first class is for real professionals, people with actual careers. I tried to speak, but my throat had closed up. I felt like I was shrinking, getting smaller and smaller under her gaze. Then she started examining my clothes out loud. Are those shoes from a garage sale? And that backpack, oh my God, that backpack looks like it survived a war. She turned to Christina. Can you believe this? Christina was laughing so hard she had tears in her eyes. Girl, stop! You're too much! But Monica wasn't stopping. She was enjoying this. I could see it in her eyes. She felt powerful, superior, and she had an audience. Please, I whispered, my voice cracking. I just want a board. My friend needs me. Her son is in the hospital. Monica's expression didn't change. If anything, she looked more annoyed that I was still talking. She picked up her phone and called someone. Greg, can you come to gate 23? We have a situation. A situation. She called me a situation. A man appeared a few minutes later, tall, smirking, wearing a supervisor badge. What's the problem here, babe? He said to Monica. Babe, they were together. This woman has a first-class ticket, but... Monica gestured at me with her hand, a dismissive wave that somehow encompassed everything wrong with my appearance. Clearly, she doesn't belong there. Greg turned to me. His expression was already decided before he even looked at my ticket. Ma'am, did you purchase this ticket yourself? My husband bought it for me, I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper now. Monica and Christina burst into laughter. Actual, cruel, mocking laughter. Your husband, Monica said between giggles. Girl, stop lying. Did you steal someone's confirmation code? Because this is fraud, you know. I'm going to need to verify this isn't fraud, Greg said, pulling out his radio. That's when security arrived. 2 officers in uniform walking toward me like I was a criminal. The crowd around us had grown. 40, maybe 50 people now, all watching, all recording. I saw a little girl pointing at me, asking her mom what was happening. I saw teenagers with their phones up, probably streaming this live. Monica addressed the crowd like she was the star of a show. Sorry, everyone. We have to deal with this situation first. She made it sound like I was dangerous, like I was the problem. One of the security officers asked me to empty my backpack. Right there, in front of everyone. My hands shook as I unzipped it. The contents spilled out onto the counter. My wallet with its worn edges. My cheap phone with the cracked screen, a handful of expired coupons I'd forgotten to throw away, and the stuffed elephant. Monica picked it up, holding it between 2 fingers like it was contaminated. Aw, how cute. Playing mommy with toys? Christina chimed in. Bet she can't even afford kids. The laughter felt like knives. Each giggle, each snicker from the crowd, they all cut into me. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me whole. The security officers checked my ID. They checked my ticket. They checked everything. Sir, one of them said to Greg, this ticket is completely legitimate. There's no issue here. But Greg wasn't satisfied. Well, she still doesn't meet our first-class standards. And that's when Monica grabbed my backpack. She picked it up with both hands and threw it on the floor, hard. The contents scattered everywhere. My wallet skidded across the tile, my phone cracked even more. The stuffed elephant landed near someone's feet. People like you make our airline look cheap, she screamed. I dropped to my knees. I couldn't help it. I was crying now, really crying, trying to gather my things while people stepped around me. Not one person bent down to help, they just kept filming. Monica stood over me, her voice dripping with disgust. Maybe next time, dress like you have some self-respect. I looked up at her through my tears. Why are you doing this? I didn't do anything wrong. She turned to the crowd, playing to them like an audience. Can you believe someone actually married this? More laughter. Always more laughter. Greg crouched down, but not to help. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to take a different flight. But my friend, her son is in the hospital. I was sobbing now, barely able to get the words out. Monica crossed her arms. Not our problem, sweetheart. I've never felt so small in my entire life. I was on my knees on a dirty airport floor, my belongings scattered around me, surrounded by strangers who saw me as entertainment. I thought about Amy, about her little boy in that hospital bed, about how I was failing everyone. And then I heard his voice. "What is going on here?" The voice was deep, authoritative, and familiar, so familiar that my heart stopped. The crowd parted, and there he was. Daniel. My husband. He was supposed to be in D.C. He was wearing his gray suit, the one he wore to important meetings, and his FAA Chief Administrator badge was clipped to his belt, visible to everyone. His eyes found me immediately. I saw his expression change from confusion to horror to barely controlled fury. He crossed the distance between us in 3 long strides and dropped to his knees beside me. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" What happened? His hands were gentle as he helped me up, checking me for injuries, wiping my tears with his thumb. I couldn't speak. I just collapsed against him, sobbing into his chest. Daniel held me for a moment, then slowly stood, keeping one arm around me. He turned to face Monica, and his expression made her smile falter. "Who did this to my wife?" Monica's confidence wavered but didn't break. "Your wife?" "Sir, this woman was trying to board first class inappropriately. With the ticket I purchased for her," Daniel interrupted, his voice cold as ice. "I'm her husband." Monica rolled her eyes. Actually, rolled her eyes. "Sure you are?" "Look, sir, we don't have time for—" Daniel pulled out his ID. Not just any ID, his official FAA Chief Administrator credentials. The color drained from Monica's face so fast I thought she might faint. Gasps rippled through the crowd. "Oh my God, that's Daniel Crawford," someone whispered. "He's the head of the FAA," another voice said. Greg started stammering. "Mr. Crawford, we didn't know. We were just—" "You didn't know what?" Daniel's voice was quiet now, which somehow made it more terrifying. "You didn't know that she's a human being who deserves basic respect? That humiliating someone isn't part of your job description?" He bent down and picked up the stuffed elephant from the floor, brushing it off gently. "My wife was bringing this to a child in the hospital. A sick child. What were you bringing to the world today besides cruelty?" The silence was deafening. Daniel turned to the security officers. "I want every second of security footage from the last 30 minutes. Then to the crowd, "If anyone recorded what happened here, please send it to this email." He showed his official FAA contact information on his phone. Immediately, phones started dinging. People were sending videos, lots of videos. "Get your airport director here," Daniel said to Greg. "Now." Greg fumbled with his radio, his hands shaking so badly he could barely press the button. Monica tried to step forward. "Mr. Crawford, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize—" "You didn't realize she was human?" Daniel cut her off. "You didn't realize that throwing someone's belongings and mocking them in public is wrong? Exactly what part didn't you realize, Monica?" An older businessman in a suit stepped out of the crowd. "I recorded everything," he said, holding up his phone. "What they did was disgusting. They threw her bag, mocked her appearance, accused her of fraud when her documents were completely valid." A woman with 2 children spoke up next. "My kids were watching this. I can't believe your employees behaved this way in front of children." More people came forward. A young woman. "She was crying and begging and they just laughed." A couple. "We felt sick watching this but didn't know what to do." An elderly man. "This is discrimination, plain and simple." I looked around at all these people defending me, and I felt something strange. During the abuse, not one of them had helped. They'd filmed, they'd watched, some had even laughed. But now they were speaking up. Now they were brave. The airport director arrived, a man named Andrew, running and out of breath. He took one look at Daniel, then at me still crying in my husband's arms, then at Monica's pale face, and I saw him understand immediately that something terrible had happened. Daniel explained calmly while holding me close. Andrew pulled out a tablet and reviewed the security footage right there. I watched his expression change as he saw Monica snatch my boarding pass, as he heard her mocking my clothes, as he witnessed her throw my backpack on the floor. "My office," Andrew said to Monica, Christina, and Greg. "Right now." Monica started crying, real tears this time. It was just a misunderstanding. I was doing my job. Christina tried too. We were just following protocol. But Daniel wasn't having it. He pulled up one of the videos a passenger had sent. The audio was crystal clear. Monica's voice. "People like you make our airline look cheap." The sound of my backpack hitting the floor, Christina's cruel laughter, Greg refusing to let me board despite my valid ticket. Andrew's face went from pale to red. This isn't just unacceptable. This is a federal civil rights violation. This happened on federal property under federal jurisdiction. He turned to Monica. "You're terminated, effective immediately. Security will escort you from the building." Monica's legs seemed to give out. "No, please. I need this job. I have bills. I have rent." Daniel's voice was quiet but firm. "You should have thought about that before you decided to humiliate someone for entertainment." Christina was fired on the spot too. Greg was suspended pending a full investigation. I found out later that he'd ignored multiple discrimination complaints because Monica was good at her job and because they were dating. Andrew turned to Daniel. "I take full responsibility for this. The culture that allowed this to happen stops today." But Daniel shook his head. "It's not just about responsibility. It's about systematic change. This didn't happen in a vacuum." They took us to a private lounge. Daniel sat beside me, holding my hand, checking over and over if I was hurt. Physically, I was fine. But emotionally, I felt shattered. "I felt so small," I whispered, "so worthless. Everyone was watching and no one helped." Daniel lifted my chin gently. "You are not worthless. You're the strongest, most beautiful person I know. Those people tried to break you because they're broken inside. Hurt people, hurt people. I just wanted to get to Amy. Her little boy needs me." "And you will," he promised, "on the next flight. And I'm coming with you." We made it to Amy's son. He was going to be okay, but I wasn't okay. For days afterward, I jumped at loud noises. I couldn't go to the grocery store without feeling like people were judging me. I had nightmares about being on that floor, reaching for my scattered belongings while people laughed. But something else happened too. The videos went viral. Millions of views, thousands of comments from people who'd experienced similar discrimination. News outlets picked up the story. Suddenly, everyone was talking about how we treat service workers, how we judge people by their appearance, how cruelty has become entertainment. 2 weeks later, Monica and Christina were banned from working in any U.S. airport. Greg was fired after investigators found he'd dismissed 17 discrimination complaints during his tenure. Andrew implemented mandatory respect training for all airport staff nationwide. But the biggest change came from Daniel. He launched an FAA-wide initiative reviewing discrimination complaints at every major airport in America. He created an anonymous reporting system so employees could speak up without fear. He put the passenger Bill of Rights at every single gate in every airport. And me? I decided to share my story publicly, not for revenge. Monica and Christina had already faced consequences. I shared it because I knew there were thousands of people out there who'd been humiliated, judged, and broken down by others. I wanted them to know they weren't alone. I started speaking at events. I worked with airlines to create what we called kindness protocols, basic dignity standards for how staff treat passengers. Some people told me I was making too big a deal out of it. "Just move on," they said. "Forgive and forget." But here's what they don't understand. When you're on your knees on a dirty floor, crying while strangers laugh at you, something inside you breaks. And yes, it can heal. But it leaves a scar. And that scar reminds you that cruelty is real, that judgment is everywhere, and that sometimes the people who are supposed to help you are the ones who hurt you most. I still shop at thrift stores. I still drive my old Honda. I still carry that backpack with the broken zipper. I had it repaired, actually, because it felt like giving up to replace it. But now when I walk through airports, I hold my head a little higher. When I see someone being mistreated, I speak up, because I know what it feels like to be invisible while everyone watches. Monica sent me a letter 3 months later. It was long, rambling, full of excuses about being stressed and underpaid and dealing with difficult passengers all day. She said she never meant to hurt me, that she was sorry, that losing her job had destroyed her life. She asked if I could help her get reinstated. I never responded. Not out of cruelty, but because some apologies come too late. When you throw someone's dignity on the floor and laugh while they pick up the pieces, sorry doesn't put those pieces back together. Standing on that airport floor, my belongings scattered around me while strangers laughed, I felt invisible. But I wasn't invisible. I was just surrounded by people who chose not to see. My husband showed me that day that real power isn't in humiliating others, it's in lifting them up. Monica and Christina lost their jobs, but more importantly, they lost the chance to be better people. And that's the real tragedy. If this story broke your heart and then put it back together, hit that like button right now. Subscribe because I share real stories about karma, justice, and standing up for what's right. Comment below. Have you ever witnessed someone being publicly humiliated? Did you speak up or stay silent? Be honest. Your answer might change how you act next time. Share this video with someone who needs to remember that kindness matters and cruelty has consequences. Remember, you never know who someone is or what they're going through. Treat everyone like they matter, because they do. See you in the next story.